I stand in support and ask for your support on Amendment A00782 to House Bill 1131. Madam Speaker, House Bill 1131 primarily deals with, as stated in the title, further providing for state health centers, and then it says making editorial changes. Madam Speaker, my amendment, 00782, actually addresses only the section of this bill which deals with the editorial changes, which will not impact the underlying nature of the bill, which is to provide for state health centers. And there is a distinct reason, Madam Speaker, why I believe that entire section should be removed from the statute. The prime sponsor of the bill included that section of the statute, which is unrelated to Section C, for the purpose of degendering references to the Office of the Secretary of Health. And frankly, Madam Speaker, I think that's a fine idea. I really do. And if the prime sponsor wants to sponsor a bill that would take the underlying statute and take all 14 references to the Secretary of Health as a man or other officials as a man, I would be co-prime sponsor on that bill with her. And I think that's a good idea because that reflects societal norms which are rooted, Madam Speaker, in a constitutional amendment that was passed by the people of Pennsylvania in 1971 that said we shouldn't be discriminating based on sex. So I'm all in favor of updating our statutes to do that. However, Madam Speaker, the rest of the language of Section B, which is being updated here or editorialized, is extremely problematic. And I want to read exactly what it says. Section B of this underlying statute, which, by the way, Madam Speaker, was written in 1905, states that the Secretary of Health shall cause examination to be made of nuisances or questions affecting the security of life and health in any locality, and for that purpose, the Secretary and any person authorized by the Secretary to do so may, without fee or hindrance, enter, examine, and survey all grounds, vehicles, apartments, buildings, and places within the state. And all persons so authorized by the Secretary shall have the powers and authority conferred by law upon constables. Madam Speaker, this is antiquated language from 1905, and it confers upon someone who the Secretary of Health appoints to enter any private place in Pennsylvania with the power of a constable. Let me tell you what constables can do. Constables can carry a firearm without a concealed license. Constables can arrest people without a warrant for breaches of the peace. So in carrying this language forward and affirming it in its 1905 version, Madam Speaker, this means that House Bill 1131, without my amendment, will affirm that the Secretary of Health can deputize someone, we don't even know how that's going to happen, to do a no-knock warrant on any resident in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and go in and potentially arrest someone for breach of the peace. Now, Madam Speaker, I believe that language is not just antiquated, but it goes against what the people of Pennsylvania have already decided. Just like crossing out him and replacing it with the words the Secretary conforms with the 1971 constitutional amendment that we adopted, getting rid of the rest of this language in this problematic section would confirm with the constitutional amendment that was approved by the people of Pennsylvania in 2021, just 2 years, in response to a governor's disaster emergency where the Department of Health ran rampant over the rights of Pennsylvanians. This language allows the Department of Health and anyone they deputize, we don't know how, to invade the privacy of Pennsylvanians. Now, I remember 3 years ago some of the things the Department of Health mandated that impacted me personally, and I'm just one of 13 million people. One of the things that those mandates did was it made me not even possible for me to be here to make a final argument on my resolution that in fact turned into those constitutional amendments that we voted on. I was not able to be here. My good friend, the gentleman from Lancaster County, who was the majority leader, had to read my final argument for me. I also had to cancel my own wedding because of Department of Health mandates. The people of Pennsylvania have rejected that in 2021 when we adopted constitutional amendments to limit a governor's emergency powers. Madam Speaker, if we need any more reason to protect the privacy of Pennsylvanians by adopting this amendment, I would like to quote a former Supreme Court justice in Pennsylvania who said, "The greatest joy that can be experienced by mortal man is to feel himself master of his fate, this in small as well in big things. Of all the precious privileges and prerogatives in the crown of happiness, which every citizen has the right to wear, none shines with greater luster and imparts more innate satisfaction and soulful contentment to the wearer than the golden, diamond-studded right to be let alone. Everything else in comparison is dross and sawdust." Now, Madam Speaker, that was Supreme Court Justice, Pennsylvania Supreme Court Justice Michael Musmano in the majority ruling in the case of Commonwealth versus Murray in 1966. For those of you who don't know who Justice Musmano was, he was a very important figure in Pennsylvania history. He was a two-term Republican member of this august body from 1928 to 1931, and he stood for the rights of ethnic minorities and fought to abolish private police forces after a miner was beaten to death by the Coal and Iron Police in 1929. He became a judge in Allegheny County in 1931 and switched to Democrat to canvass for Franklin Delano Roosevelt for president. He took a leave of absence to serve in World War II, after which he was appointed to leading roles in post-war tribunals and testified on behalf of the prosecution in the Adolf Eichmann trial. And then after resuming his career in Pennsylvania, he was elected to the state Supreme Court in 1951, where he served until his death until 1968. And during the 1960s, he was an ardent supporter of civil rights marchers. Madam Speaker, this amendment, 00782, is an effort to not carry forward antiquated language that would invade the privacy of Pennsylvanians. The privacy which is so precious and which they have already 2 years ago affirmed that they wish to keep sacred as Justice Musmano said. Madam Speaker, I thank the good lady, the gentlelady from Delaware County for her input on this, but I will add that her degendering language does not add anything to this bill either. And in fact, if you carry the language forward that's around that degendering language, it's going to be harmful to the people of Pennsylvania and goes against what they already said at the ballot box, which was they don't want this kind of executive authority in Pennsylvania, and they just want to be let alone. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for a yes vote.